How's it going, my bakers? Hope you're having a great day so far. Welcome back to the channel. Today I have another sweet treat recipe for you. We're gonna make chimney cake. It's a street food classic. So let's get to the kitchen and get started. Chimney cake is a popular street food treat. It can be often found in different varieties in street food markets, especially during Christmas. Sometimes the dough that is used for making it resembles cake batter, but sometimes it's more like bread dough. What all of them have in common is that they are usually spit roasted over coals or open flames, caramelizing the sugars on the surface. Of course, that is not really achievable when baking it at home, but it's still a nice little project and totally doable, and all you will need is a few aluminium drinks cans. So let's get to it. Let me show you how it's done, starting with the ingredients. For the dough, we'll need some white bread flour, milk, an egg, salt, yeast, vanilla paste or vanilla essence, some honey or some sugar. The lemon zest is optional, but it works really well, and we'll also add some butter for extra softness. Chimney cakes can be coated with many different ingredients. Chopped nuts, sesame seeds, desiccated coconut, or cinnamon sugar, which is what I'm going to use. You could also leave them plain, or you could glaze them. Be creative, or use whatever you have, it's up to you. But cinnamon sugar is definitely a classic. When it comes to the equipment, we'll need a bowl, scales, a dough scraper, a temperature probe, and we'll need our baking setup. I will try two methods. For one, I'll try using rolling pins. I will wrap the dough around my wooden rolling pins, and then place them over a deep tray and bake them that way, in an effort to mimic the spit roasting process. The reason why I put foil on the tray is that the rolling pins don't move around too much. But having used this method, I can tell you it's not the best. It did work, of course, but aluminium drinks cans work best, and all you need for that is some empty cans and some foil. The dough can be wrapped around the can, and it can be baked while standing up vertically, so there's no need for any janky setups. It is simple and convenient, and you won't need any special equipment. You'll need 4 small cans for this recipe. I'm of course doing 2 cans and 2 rolling pins. Brush the cans lightly with some oil so the dough doesn't stick to them. If you're gonna use wooden rolling pins, don't worry about brushing them with oil. Okay, with all that out of the way, let's start making the dough. First things first, temperature control. My kitchen's around 23 degrees Celsius or 73 degrees Fahrenheit. I want my milk to be slightly below that. As we mix the dough, it will warm up by a couple degrees. We're aiming for a final dough temperature of around 25 degrees Celsius or 77 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, in a large bowl, combine the milk, the yeast, the salt, the vanilla, the lemon zest, the egg, the honey, and the melted butter. I like to use melted butter because it's easier to mix into the dough. I melt it in the microwave, making sure it's not too hot when I use it. If yours turned out a little bit hot, just leave it to cool down for a while. Give all the ingredients a good mix. You want to dissolve the salt completely and hydrate these, and ensure that all the ingredients are dispersed evenly throughout the liquid. Then continue by adding the final ingredient, the white bread flour. Then grab your dough scraper and mix it to a dough. Mix it until there's no dry flour left. It will be a little bit loose and sticky, but that's totally normal. Once you're done, place the dough in a clean bowl and take its temperature. We were aiming for around 25 degrees Celsius or 77 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's exactly what we got. If your dough turned out a little bit warmer, it will ferment more rapidly. If it's cooler, it will take longer. Adjust the fermentation times accordingly. Bulk fermentation will take around an hour and a half, but halfway through, we'll give the dough a fold. So leave it to ferment for 45 minutes, then take it out the bowl and fold it. Folding replaces kneading in a no-knead recipe, and just one fold will be sufficient for this kind of dough. Pop it out on the table with the smooth side down, flatten it slightly, and then fold the edge over the middle, going around in a circle until you reach point where you started. Then flip it smooth side up again, tighten it against the table, and that's your fold done. Place the dough back into the bowl, cover it up, and leave it to ferment for 45 more minutes. During this time, preheat the oven, 160 degrees Celsius, fan on, and that's 320 Fahrenheit. And yes, we are preheating the oven during bulk fermentation. That's because right after it, the dough will be ready for the oven. All there is left to do is the shaping. Dust the dough with flour, cut generously, pop it out on the table, flatten it out with your hands, and then continue by rolling it out with a rolling pin. You want to roll it out to a big rectangle. It should be quite thin. Don't worry if the edges are not totally straight, that's not important, because we're going to cut it up in little strips anyway. You got a couple of options for cutting. You could use a knife, just make sure you don't mess up your table, or you can use a pizza wheel like this one. It'll definitely make light work of it. You can make the strips thinner or thicker, it's up to you really. I prefer them quite thin. Okay, after cutting comes the fun part. We need to wrap them around our chosen baking implement. And there's not much to it. Do it strip by strip. Wrap it around, then take the next one, connect it to the first one, and keep wrapping. You can make the layer thick or thinner, it's up to you. I ended up making 4 chimney cakes, and they were relatively thick. If you laid the strips down side by side, you could probably get 5 or 6 out of it. After wrapping, the dough might be a little bit uneven, so what you can do is roll it against the table to flatten it out. This will not only make it look neater, but will also make it easier to cover with toppings. I mentioned earlier that usually chimney cake is cooked over open flames or coals, which caramelize the sugary coating. Of course at home we can't really do this, but I guess one option for achieving a similar result would be by using a blowtorch. But I'll leave that experiment up to you. I left my blowtorch at work, so I didn't manage to try it this time. Okay, all wrapped up, we can continue by coating them in a topping. To make the topping stick, you must brush the dough with something. I'm just going to use plain water. It will work well enough for cinnamon sugar. But if you want to use chopped nuts, coconut or even sesame seeds, you could glaze them with egg. If you are going to use water, a great alternative to brushing is just spraying them with a spray bottle. Okay, let's get these out of the way and set up our rolling station. You can use a tray to not make a mess on your table. Sprinkle the topping inside it, then take the chimney cake and roll it around in the topping. Apply even pressure as you roll it and make sure you coat the whole surface. And once it's all coated, shake off the excess. And of course don't waste the sugar, keep it for another project. Okay, these bad boys are ready for the oven, so let's get them in there. They'll take around 20 minutes to fully bake. And because they're shaped a little bit awkwardly, it would be a good idea to turn them around halfway through the bake to ensure that they bake nice and evenly. And don't be me, just use a pair of oven gloves. Or even don't mess around with the rolling pins in the first place. Like I said earlier, the drinks cans will work best. The only thing is that you need to save up some cans. I don't really consume any fizzy drinks, so I had to go out and buy them especially for this project. But at the end of the day, it's up to you how you bake them. And regardless of what you use, once they're nicely golden brown all over, they're ready. Leave them to cool down for a few minutes so you can handle them, and then carefully remove the chimney cakes from the rolling pins or the tins, whatever you're using. They should slide off pretty easily, and once again the tinfoil wrapped cans work best. The chimney cakes slid off real easy from them. And there you have it. That is one way to make chimney cake at home. And of course it is not the same as the one you would get at the street food market, but it's still a nice little project, just a fun thing to make, and a very tasty one at that. The dough is nice and soft, it's sweet, with a delicate vanilla and lemon aroma, and it's fun to eat too, because you can just tear it up in little strips. But because it is so thin, you must eat it whilst it's fresh and warm. There is no way you can store this, it'll go stale real quick. As soon as it cools down enough that you can handle it, eat it. Some hot melted chocolate would be a great dip for this. Perhaps I should try that next time, or perhaps you can try it before I do. So what do you think of this recipe? Have you ever seen chimney cake before? Have you tried it? Have you made it? Let me know down in the comments. You want to see more videos like this one? Click over here. Subscribe to the channel, click right here. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.